How's it going, everybody? Welcome back. We got a sort of last minute session going on today. My guest is a really just like longtime friend of mine. We grew up together. We're both union brothers, and he's living out in Minneapolis right now. He's a New Hampshire native, but he's been doing work and just living on the ground in Minneapolis. My good friend Zach Green, back again for another episode. Zach, how are you doing today?
I'm doing all right, in spite of it all. That's the perennial question, and I just keep
Yeah,
telling everyone, we're getting through it. I like to say we. It's hard to think of myself as an I anymore. Um,
yeah,
so yeah, we're getting through it.
understandable. So we'll start out with Bovino literally came to your neighborhood, correct?
Yeah. So for those of you not familiar with like the geography of Minneapolis, I live in Uptown, which is ironically on the south side of the city. Uptown, they're Chicago's Uptown, I believe. So, in any case, and then I'm in an even like smaller neighborhood considered the Wedge. It's kind of shaped in a wedge shape. And so, yeah, on Wednesday this past week, as a lot of people I think are aware now that there's these signal chats, these like neighborhood rapid response chats, and so around 9:30 in the morning or so. No, sorry, I'm getting my days mixed up. It's been a week for anyone paying attention
You're
over
good.
there.
You're
Uh,
good, man.
sorry. So this was Wednesday afternoon, um, around 2 o'clock. So you got the video here.
Yeah, yeah, I'm pulling it up right now.
So yeah, so a little bit prior to this, I got the alert that Bavino and his convoy were at the Speedway gas station, 25th and Hennepin. So that's roughly 3 or 4 blocks west of where I live. Um, I can see out my window to the park, Mueller Park. This is where all of this goes down. Um, in my video, I don't think you can see Bovino because I kind of locked into this situation that we're seeing right now, which is this ICE agent harassing this young black man. And I just kind of locked into that. That was like where I felt called to in that moment.
Yeah,
Um, of course, I think the image of that day, the headlines of that day, is what Bavino wanted, and that's him unleashing a canister of CS gas. There's been debate over which chemical munitions, and I personally don't, get too caught up in that. The fact is, like,
right.
they're using chemical warfare on residents, and as far as I could tell, there was no mission that day. They had been at several other gas stations throughout the south side of the city. Multiple. One was a restaurant where I ate at just the night before, um, called Ola Arepa. Um, so he was kind of doing this like reign of terror through the city for his press tour, and you'll see other videos where he has one of his propagandists with a DSLR and like a long lens who sits in the back seat and just tapes all this. For it's not for legal purposes. I'm pretty sure. I think it's for posterity. Not for
No, yeah,
posterity either.
propaganda, dude. You gotta
For
feed that
propaganda.
machine. Yeah,
Yeah, you got to hype that little Wizard of Oz up. So
right,
uh,
right. I'm
yeah.
surprised they're not calling all the other videos AI right now. You know what I mean? Like, it's
Oh
what I
yeah,
expect from them at this point.
truly, yeah. So yeah, as you can see, like this is a park. Not in the dead of winter. It's pretty active. There's a lot of children that hang out there. There's a playground on the other side of the park, basketball court. I live in a very residential neighborhood. There's a few apartment complexes. I live in one of those. Um, so yeah, like I mean, I got on the scene and just kind of went full into urgency mode and couldn't quite grasp, you know, the totality of it. And again, I looked at later videos and there were observers that were pinned to the ground by 2, 3, 4 agents, um, just being brutalized in broad daylight.
Right. So, okay, and I mean, just like, just a sort of quick moment here that we can take to talk about this. So, people are seeing green gas in that particular video, and
Yeah.
I just so that we know, there's been like enough reporting on this that I feel sort of comfortable sharing this stuff. Um,
Sure.
this is we know now based off of canisters photos that people have taken posted to the internet and then subsequent articles that date all the way back to like the BLM protests and stuff like that around George Floyd, that like these are the canisters that we see on site. There's a few different versions of it. We can go back. This is the company that produces them. This is, according to them, this is the least lethal version. But even on their own website, they say expose you to chemicals including lead salts, methylene chloride, and hexavalent chromium, which are known to the state of California to cause cancer. Lead salts, which are known to the state of California to cause birth defects and or other reproductive harm. So this is like this stuff is banned by the Geneva Convention. Like, this is really, we're allowed to use it on people inside the United States, but you cannot, it is illegal internationally to use these products for any type of crowd control or any type of warfare situation. So just to like note that, it's like this is kind of where we're at. So that kind of begs the question, like, when it comes to like being prepared to go out and protest, deal with these situations, what are you guys doing to gear up? Like, when you're heading out there to keep yourself safe, what are the types of things that you're getting, you're wearing, you're making sure to like avoid any type of like additional exposure to chemical irritants, other crowd control methods? Like, I know they're using the sonic stuff now to just sort of like the general idea with being on the ground.
Yeah. So I just want to say, like, I'm learning as I'm going. I've been a fairly active person. I would call myself an activist. But this is not something I do all the time. I haven't, spent years of my life preparing for warfare in my neighborhood.
Right, we're film workers,
learning,
dude. Like, what is?
yeah, exactly. Yeah, yeah. So like, but that being said, Carter, like, so yeah, I work in film and TV. I work in grip and electric, which is very heavy duty work, and they're high intensity situations. So like, preparedness is something I always take very seriously. And
Right.
Fortunately and coincidentally, Monday, a comrade and I went to the Whipple building, the federal Whipple building. This is located south of the Twin Cities, kind of by the airport. And this is where they're detaining people, and this is where ICE is staging. And so they come in and out all day in their, masked SUVs. And, anyway, so Monday I was at Whipple building, and my friend and we both talked about the possibility of chemical munitions and how to prepare ourselves. So my friend picked up these 3M respirator masks. Particularly, you want like a P100 filter.
Right.
I don't know the technicalities or specifics of that, but I just know like that you want at minimum a P100 filter. A KN95 mask, unfortunately, is not going to do you a lot of good, but it'll be somewhat preventative. And so the mistake I made, because I left in a panic, was I did not grab my gas mask. And also, I did not have a pair of goggles. You really want goggles that seal and cup to your eyes. And you can also buy, so like these P100 masks, they come in half masks or full masks. So some come with the like face shield attached to it. You'll also see, state police and people in riot gear have iterations of these masks. I've been seeing people with like literal like gas masks from, that look like, out of like World War II kind of vibe sort of thing going on. So
Right. Yeah.
um, ideally, you want some face covering, some sort of respirator over your mouth and over your mouth and over your nose, and with a tight seal. Um, Goggles or some kind of eye protective wear. On Wednesday, like I said, I ran out in a panic, and we're not our best selves when we're panicking. It's so important to slow yourself down and say, what do I need right now to keep myself safe first? I did not do that. It's also dead of winter here. It's incredibly like mind-numbingly cold. So I had a neck gaiter, and even that, I mean, it was a pretty thick fleece neck gaiter, and it was helpful, but still, I was choking, throat burning, eyes burning, nose burning. You can hear me coughing in that video and coughing up spit, and it's you do not want to be in that stuff. It is very, very nasty, toxic stuff, and as you said, carcinogenic. It gets on your clothes. You have to immediately wash your clothes, everything that you're wearing when you come into contact with this stuff. You immediately take a cold shower. You don't want this stuff sticking to your skin. It's bad. Like, it's just
Right. Yeah, and I know it because as I read about it, the more I learn is like it specifically adheres to moisture. So like,
yeah,
it can be like, and it's not just like water-based moisture; it can be oil-based moisture as well. So I'm seeing like a lot of times people like don't wear makeup if if that's something that you do. Don't any oil-based stuff that you have on your skin, it's gonna stick to that.
yeah,
So you want to be safe. You want to make sure that you can get that off of you or just not have it on you in the first place when you go to these protests, because you never know what you're going to encounter, and they have a whole bunch of different kinds of gas with a whole bunch of different kinds of really fucked up chemicals in them.
not to mention too, pepper spray has been pretty ubiquitous throughout this. So you're seeing people with orange or like a yellowy liquid on their face, and that I assume is the capsaicin, which is the chemical
Right.
in peppers that burn. And
Right.
yeah, so people are just getting hosed down with that stuff. Those little canisters, I mean, they're everything that has been done at this point is within point blank range, or closer. And like, which it's already violent as it is, but like to be that invasive and that close, and that like it is brutality. I mean, they're this is not de-escalation tactics. This is not what even law enforcement, which I have a long litany of issues with. Even they are not often, although as we know they do themselves, they are not often at point blank range. Like, that is not their training.
Right. So, okay, now this is like we're talking about like individual stuff that you can do right now, but that kind of moves on to the next question of like, you guys are doing a lot of sort of like grassroots coalition based organizing to make sure that there's safe sites, things like that. Tell me a little bit about what you guys like, the sort of like the nitty gritty on like, whether it's like a medic center in a cafe or something like that. Like, let's talk about that and what that looks like, so that people that are watching this, whether they're in Minnesota or New Hampshire or anywhere in this country right now, can hear
Yeah,
this and then try and replicate that so that they are maintaining safety and working together, and also building connections and coalition with other people that are inside the cause.
sure. Yeah, so again, I'll do my best. I'm not working with a specific organization right now, so I'm operating as an individual community member who gives a shit. So
Which
bare
is
minimum, I
honestly
ask.
probably most
Yeah,
people that are going to catch this. You know what I mean? Like, there's not necessarily
yeah,
like more people are just regular folks that are upset right now and are like, I got to do something, as opposed to like somebody that's
yeah,
in an organization. So it's a
right.
valuable perspective to have.
Yeah, totally. So yeah, I mean, like, everything starts with your network, your neighborhood organizing. So to dial it back a few weeks ago, I mean, to peel this back even further, there's many layers and reasons why Minneapolis, why Minnesota, and maybe that's a conversation for later. But anyway, this incursion, this Operation Metro Surge, really actually started in December. It started prior to the holidays and slowly was starting to escalate. Then, like, I would say pretty much as soon as the new year began, I mean, it was full on, 2,000 agents on the ground, and like some people were caught on their heels, right? Like a lot of us average sort of just people were just like caught, not prepared. And so there's been a lot of wonderful organizations here, Monarca, Unidos, the Immigrant Law Center, and Defend 612. And so Defend 612, they've been doing these trainings where they've teamed up with organizers in Chicago, who experienced a surge prior to us, over the summer and through the fall, I believe.
Yeah, I think that was like if memory serves, we're talking about that that apartment building where they like ice airdropped in the middle of the night because like the slumlord was upset with the tenants, and so he called in ICE and said, oh, there's Trent Aragua in there, and they like started pulling naked kids out of their apartments and putting them on the street in handcuffs and whatnot. So I if I'm not mistaken, that's the origin point of that particular story.
Yes, and so this is Operation Midway Blitz. They like to come up with these cute operation names for each city that they terrorize. Like Maine is now Catch of the Day.
Yeah, Charlotte's Web, and yeah, that like just fucking disgusting.
Yeah. Anyway, so yeah, Defense 612, they started offering these trainings in collaboration with Chicago organizers, with organizers that have been doing this work for a long time, really spearheaded by Latinx activists and people that have been dealing with immigration enforcement their whole lives. Like ICE is a relatively new arm of the federal government, but it has had other iterations throughout our history and continues to be a problem. And so I joined one of these trainings. It was about an hour and a half. They kind of broke down like what to be looking out for, how to identify these agents who are trying to operate undercover. A lot of people refer to them as secret police, Gestapo, like, you name it, any sort of fascist army you can think of. And so, but part of these trainings, once you register for them, they have kind of a very secure and protected matrix of neighborhoods. And within that, there's a lot of sort of community guidelines that they expect you to adhere to, and they take the security culture of it very, very strongly. Like it's a lot of these documents that go around, I mean, they're in encrypted documents, and all just to protect ourselves, protect each other. And so once you get into this network, you things are broken down by neighborhood, and you find your signal group in your neighborhood, the closest to you. And it can take, when I had joined, Signal chats only have the capacity for 1,000 users at a time, which sounds like a lot, but we are in a city. So somewhere, more rural or less populous, like that might actually be, pretty solid, but like in the Twin Cities, we're about 500,000 in each city. So these chats get overwhelmed pretty quickly. Like the groups get big pretty quickly.
Yeah, you're talking about like 500-600 different group chats just to make sure that you've got everybody in it.
Yeah, it's wild. And so now in Uptown, like Whittier, where I am, there's 4 of these rapid response chats because there's just so many people on the daily trying to get connected and trying to get involved. So these chats are kind of broad. And then I will say, like, once people are trained up and they get involved in these chats, you're kind of there's a little bit of a learning curve once you're in there, and once you kind of realize the apparatus and what we're doing. And so some are dedicated specifically to Ice Watch. And what this means is, like, you are buddying up with people. Never go alone. Do not go alone to any sort of Ice Watch activity, protest, anything for that matter these days. Just like have someone with you, because safety is paramount. They're disappearing people, and you want someone there to be able to document that, or you want to be the person able to document that, right?
Right.
So that's a big thing. So yeah, like I said, like some of these chats are dedicated just to giving announcements and alerts about ICE in the area. Then there's daily chats. The daily chats, they are refreshed every single day. They're deleted at night. And in these daily chats, this is where you can communicate with other people on the ground, what they're observing. We use the salute method, which is size, activity, location. I always forget what the U is. T is. There's info on this, and it is not fresh on the dome right now, so forgive me.
You're good. You're good. It's a mess out there, and I applaud you for having as much off the top of the dome as you do.
Thank you. Yeah. So in short, like the salute method is like you want to be using as much visual information and geographic information as possible, so that you can confirm that this isn't your neighbor that you're, harassing with 10 other commuter cars, that this is in fact a confirmed ICE agent. And so when people put that in the chat, then there's a process of vetting that against a database. People do what's called plate checks. And basically, like, Enterprise, they're renting out the majority of these vehicles to ICE. They have these like contracts that are kind of like above the local like enterprise location level. And so they, through their like fleet management, they basically have like wholesale rented thousands of vehicles, right? So at this point, like most of those vehicles have been clocked, like, and yeah, so
the insurance policies on those vehicles must be insane, dude. I know, because they keep smashing other people's vehicles with them. I'm like, guys, you're gonna destroy the whole Enterprise rent-a-car fleet. Like, what do you like? It's just
yeah. I mean, it's wild, and not to mention, like, people are being brutalized inside these vehicles too. And Enterprise, like, specifically has a policy where like weapons cannot be transported in their vehicles. These are not police vehicles. Like, these are not intended for this purpose, among many other things. So, anywho, so yeah, there's Ice Watch, there's mutual aid groups, there's just like general strategy chats and discussion. There is just like a whole plethora. Like, when people say, like, in times of organizing, which hopefully is always, like, to find your lane, like there's a lot of truth to that. It's just like finding what suits you best. And like Ice Watch, that is considered frontline work, because you are more than likely to encounter ICE agents while you are looking for them, right?
Right.
And it's not so much, I mean, the bigger goal, right, is to prevent detainment, is to prevent kidnapping, is to prevent immigrants being deported. Because almost these abductions happen very quickly. Sometimes they can happen within 1 to 2 minutes. They often operate very early in the morning when it's dark out and people are going to work. They'll go to bus stops. They're at schools. It is a very hostile approach that they are taking.
Is there like community grocery deliveries and stuff like that for people who are trying to stay inside and not
Yeah,
just not even encounter a situation where they'd have to go out?
yeah. So a lot of our immigrant neighbors and I'm not sure the total demographic breakdown of this, but a lot of people are on lockdown right now, right? Like they can't go to work for fear of ICE. They can't go to the grocery store. So there are also a lot of mutual aid groups. When I say groups, like I mean group chats, but also like organizations that are distributing food. Um, One thing too to bear in mind, like, and when I reference like sort of picking a lane, if you're doing active ice watch, ICE has acquired technology where they can track your license plates, they can record you from their vehicles, and they can follow you to your home and harass you further. So if you are someone who is, doing ICE watch or patrol, however you want to call it, it's better that you don't also do grocery deliveries, right? Like that you're not delivering mutual aid, because if your vehicle is tracked and can be followed, like you are then potentially bringing danger to your neighbor's doorstep.
Right.
So that's been a thing too, that, a big safety thing, that if you solely intend to do kind of frontline work, like you have to be more judicious with how you move, basically.
Right. And I just throwing this up on the screen really quick as a report from 404 Media. This was back in June, but there's been sort of like redundancies on this particular reporting. It just went into the Wall Street Journal. We're talking about Mobile Fortify, which is an application that ICE is using to do facial recognition. So they're cataloging people's faces. So it's like if you're out on the street, if you're doing that kind of thing, like just even basic protesting, it's worth covering your face as much as possible. We talked about using protective gear to avoid tear gas and whatnot, but if you want to remain concealed as well, to help mitigate these situations. And then also, if you're not, it's important to remember that like your face, that data is very likely logged into some sort of system somewhere. And if you then want to go and do something that's like, oh, well, I want to reel back on doing ICE watch and I want to deliver groceries instead, you as an individual in that space might actually be compromised already. So it's important to like, again, to say, to your point earlier about like you really passionate, you want to get into it, it's important to stop and take a second and think about the repercussions of anything and everything that you have done up to that point, because while well-intentioned, you could be doing something that could actually still be endangering other folks.
Correct. Yeah. There's been some interesting debate in some of the neighborhood dialogues about, are you showing up to a protest as a protester or as an observer, as a legal observer? And I don't necessarily like feel prescriptive about that, but it is a good question to ask yourself, because if you're at a protest and you're agitating, like that is one tactic. But also, like, you have to keep in mind that again, the ultimate goal is to try to prevent abductions, detainment, brutality, right? So there's even many roles within like just showing up when ICE is rolling down your block. Are you there to blow a whistle? Are you there to just record? Are you recording and you're also engaging with ICE, like I did on Wednesday?
Right.
So yeah, it's very complex, and like, while these situations are urgent and get your nervous system really, frazzled, like it's good to take a beat and kind of really like square up with yourself and talk through this with friends and community too. Like, how do you want to show up in this moment?
Right. So, and I mean, and to get to the general community side of things, like, what are you guys as a community doing to just like fight the doom? You know, like the psychological impact of just like having this happen to you, right? Like, because to my understanding, Minneapolis is like a really peaceful city for the most part. Like, it's very chill. You guys like the Minnesota nice type of thing, and I just,
Yeah.
you know, like to my understanding, like the Somali community there is actually like incredibly well integrated, and they're really really generous, nice people, and you know, like despite whatever the Nick Shirley idiot boy video propagated for folks.
Yeah.
It paints a really like inaccurate picture of what that community is like. So it's like just help me understand like a little bit of the picture of the diversity of the community and how you guys are like holding up and showing solidarity in an emotional psychological way.
Yeah. I mean, that's a great question. And it's something like we're trying our best at. um, but a lot of that can look like, I mean, um, I can't pretend that, I've gone to a couple of dinners now and with friends and you try to kind of shoot the shit and sort of find your way to some kind of normal conversation. And that's just, it's hard to come by. But, um, a lot of friends have invited me over for dinner for soup and just to like, warm up. Again, this is my adopted home, and there's a large Scandinavian population here, and they are very into this idea of this word I can never pronounce, but Huga. That's my best.
Butcher it, you
HYGG.
know.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
Which is ultimately sort of like this investment in coziness, right? It's like low
right.
dim lighting and candles, warm, socks and curling up with a pet and blankets, and it's just like very getting into that. So I think a lot of us have kind of tried to activate that to calm our nervous systems a bit. There's been um, I was just talking with my friend's mom the other night, who was watching my dog. That's the kind of like community care that's going on. Um, she's part of a singing group. They go out in the streets and they sing together, and that's part of their resistance, and that's part of a way that they heal. And that's not uncommon to movement work, but they're like a weekend or two ago. I mean, Minneapolis, like if you've never been here, I mean, it is like one of the quirkiest, weirdest, like we are whacked out of our heads. Like we are silly people. And I love it. Like it is such a ridiculous place sometimes that like all you can do is laugh. And so like 2 weekends ago, there was a art sled rally, where people make these sleds out of cardboard and they bomb down this big, huge hill, and they're very creative.
I think
There
I've seen
was
some clips of that. Yeah.
Yeah. So like, stuff like that like brings a lot of joy. And I don't want to sour this, but like there is another piece to this. When going to these events, like it is largely white people that are there. And I say that because any person of color right now, largely, they're under their own lockdown, their own imposed lockdown. They're not leaving their homes. They don't get to experience this kind of joy. They don't get to have that camaraderie the way that we're having that right now. And so like that is something to take stock of as well. And I think that is part of the bigger picture of this, is that this whole operation is a clearinghouse to have a white America.
Right.
And so like this is the byproduct that is happening, with the presence of ICE, with them coming in and terrorizing these communities. So like as much as we are able to find these little slivers of joy, like I'm also trying to hold in my head that it also comes with something that cannot be universally shared in this moment. And Yeah, it's very upsetting. But then like you will also see, and that's not to say like, they're absolutely like, um, one of our city council members, Jason Chavez, who's um, Latinx. I mean, he is everywhere. Like this guy, he's not even my ward city council person, and he was in the park with us on Wednesday when we were getting tear gassed. He's everywhere. Elliot Payne, who is a black man and city council member, president of the city council, uh, he's everywhere. I saw him yesterday. And it goes beyond too just those folks, like the elected folks. Like there are Somali neighbors and people that are showing up regardless, like without fear, without hesitation. But like by and large, a lot of folks are having to sit this one out, and that is
Right.
because they're under the threat of deportation or worse.
Yeah, yeah, no, I totally get it. And I mean, like, yeah, I think that's probably like a good way to mention, like, look, like if you are a lesser of melanin content, it's probably important for you to like double over, right, in terms of the amount of effort that you do, which is going to be draining and it's going to be hard, but that's also like it's sort of incumbent upon you to do so, and not you specifically, but just writ large, because you've got these communities, people that are your neighbors, that have cared for you, that have fed you, that have hung out with you, you drank, you've grilled together, like whatever, and they don't have that out. You know what I mean? They don't have a way to go blow off steam or do something that would make them not be sitting there freaking out, and in all likelihood for them to just sit in their apartment or whatever and like watch reruns on Netflix or some shit is just increasing the level of anxiety, and
Mm-hmm.
the cortisol is welling up no matter what. So it's like, I mean, and I think this is probably to a certain degree the goal of things, is to cause this physiological response in literally everybody, and have it be sort of hitting all of those different angles at the same time. And it doesn't necessarily have to be strategic, like I don't want to ascribe any kind of intelligence levels to Bavino or Pam Bondi or Christy Noem that they have not fucking earned. But there is certainly a more subversive aspect of this that's important to consider in terms of just like maintaining mental clarity and emotional clarity as you're going through this process.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm not sure. Is there a question in there?
It wasn't a question. It was more like just like a general response to like what
Yeah.
you're, like, I think like just to kind of like maybe like restate things a little differently for people. It's like, I mean, dude, like we're both from New Hampshire. Like it is like white people country up here. So,
Yeah.
and it's like, I'm saying that to anybody that's watching this to just kind of be cognizant of the fact that like that's the reality. So that's an important aspect of things. So like let's move to a different section of this.
Okay.
Alex Preddy was legally carrying a firearm. That was something he was allowed to do by Minnesota state law, something we can do in New Hampshire. I've also seen photos of people that are out on the street that are openly carrying firearms that seem to be, acting in defense to a certain degree of protesters, activists, observers, what have you. But again, there's not really any good way to be able to tell the difference between them and ICE, because ICE doesn't have any, prescribed uniform that they wear. That's kind of like the whole point, right? So
Right.
I'm just sort of curious as to like what kind of information you can provide us in terms of that, more that, as the temperature is fucking rising. Help us who are not in that situation, like on the ground in that particular space, help us understand what managing sort of that more militant aspect of things is like, and how you as an activist or a protester who's not necessarily carrying, how you navigate that space.
Yeah, I mean it's not simple. it's getting the landscape is shifting every day. There's a independent journalist here. I think his handle is Ghost Lee, Ghost underscore Lee, and he was kind of updating people on like the tactics are changing from day to day. He's been at the Whipple building again. This is like sort of the hive of ICE. And so we're seeing like, we're learning that some of these agents, they will wear hijabs. They will, put sort of, there's this picture that's been going around of someone putting a coexist and a vegan sticker on the back of their truck, to try to sort of blend in a way or fit the sort of, lefty stereotype of a Minneapolitan. So it's getting harder. And so a lot of it, like, unfortunately, like you kind of have to go off your gut instincts. You kind of have to look at people's behaviors. And you almost have to be a little more of a psychologist or a sociologist than just your average observer. I haven't, again, like, so Wednesday, the guys that were with Bovino, I mean, they're in full tactical gear. They're wearing bulletproof vests and helmets and equipment that is really, frankly, akin to the IDF, right? Like if you've or
Yep.
IOF. And so, but they're trying to enter this space where they're becoming more plainclothes. They might be wearing jeans and sneakers and hoodies now. The guys that tackled Alex, I mean, they're very clearly wearing sort of civilian wear, but then they also have tactical vests on. And, part of that makes me think like, they were prepared to get into some sort of entanglement, and to also be able to strip that stuff off and just blend in with a crowd. So again, it's like, it's hard to give a super prescriptive, like, this is an ICE agent, this is what you need to be looking for. And same goes with media too, honestly. Like, there was a situation about a week or two ago now at a local cafe where these two guys, maybe three, were in a white SUV Suburban, which is like a pretty common vehicle that we're seeing ICE go around in with tinted windows. And, the guy, he said, I'm with Telemundo, I'm press. He showed us his press badge. And the reason I put it in quotations is like, I work in media, you work in media. Like, oftentimes any sort of like media identification, like they will have like a logo on it. It will, there's a certain professional quality to it that this press badge seemed to be lacking.
Yeah.
I did look him up on the internet. We, got his name, and he had, some articles out there and a LinkedIn profile and but a Twitter account that hadn't been active in about 5 years. So there was just like some kind of sus things going on. And so in that situation, again, like that's where you're running the plate numbers with your group, whoever's on top of that database. Like, and an unfortunate thing that's happening too is that like some people that are legit press, they're getting vehicles that ICE use because they go back into the system, the rental car system.
Right. Yeah. You're pulling from the same pool either way in order to get the vehicle.
Yeah. So it's a constant shifting landscape. And yeah, it's like, that's why safety is just paramount. And if you look at that video with Alex, I mean, he was literally saving someone's life. I mean, he was standing in front of a neighbor trying to protect them from an abduction. He was using his full body, and he put his body on the line, and was horrifically murdered for that.
Yeah, I mean, it's really hard, man. I don't like it's weird because in a lot of ways, like I don't know what to say about it. You know what I mean? Like there's something about it that's just so arresting, because I think like for a lot of us, it's like this is shit that we read about in history class. You know what I mean? Like I'm thinking back at it was all so abstract. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Now you have to live through it and process it, except the technology is so vastly different from anything that we've ever seen before. You know what I mean? And, you know, to your point about the IOF, and, you know, it's like I've said it on lately in other interviews and stuff like that. Like, this could not be more Israeli coded in terms of the way that it's being implemented directly, and that follows the exact mapping of, like, we're gonna have this country in the Middle East that's essentially the 51st state of the US do all of this weird militaristic experimentation on this group of people that they basically just, like, forced out of their own land. They're going to do all of these really messed up police tactics. We're going to have them come and train our United States police forces. And then you've got, like, you know, ICE coming in, and they'll only train for 47 days because that's the number that Trump is. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
and and so it's like whatever they're getting is probably very much so straight out of the IDF playbook. And that's the imperial boomerang, folks. That's how that sort of global fascism turns and spins around. And it's, you know, this is less a question and more a statement that I'm sure you can probably add to. But it's like, this is how this works, and it's important to understand the breadth of everything when you're thinking about what we're up against, what we're dealing with, how to process it. You know, like, just remember that we're in a total surveillance state, and that World War III probably already started, and it just looks different because we have tech that lets us hide behind the fact that it's not just a wall of bodies walking into a massacre.
Yeah. I mean, again, it's like we know that a lot of these people train with the IDF. Some people that have joined the ranks of ICE, I mean, they've been in military service prior to this, so they've gotten trainings from them. We know that your average police forces on a lot of occasions train with IDF, and if you look at, you know, on the ground there, I mean, it is a known apartheid system. And you know, kind of earlier what I was talking about, where it's sort of like, you know, white people kind of get to carry on while where, you know, melanated folk have to go underground, essentially. I mean, like, that is apartheid. Like, we are in this you know, clearing the way. It's ethnic cleansing. I mean, Bovino basically said in a press conference this past week that they will not leave until the operation is finished. What does that mean exactly? How does
right? Yeah, that's my immediate question. Is what does that even look like, dude? Like,
yeah, I mean,
how do you define that?
Right, because, like, I mean, obviously, like, they're not targeting just you know, Somali people or Latinx people, or, you know, and you know, but, like, it's just sort of like we have this whole neighborhood here, Cedar Riverside, which is like one of the largest Somali diaspora outside of Somalia, like in the U.S., right in Minneapolis. And so, you know, it's like, are they waiting to invade there? I mean, like, another, you know, Israel, like, they have the power to wipe Palestine off the map, wipe Gaza off the map.
Right.
They're not doing that. And the reason they're not doing it is because they want it slow and torturous, and it would be frankly too apparent what their plan is, right? So it is slow, it is tedious, it is painful. And that, I think, is what we're kind of seeing here, is this slow, torturous process that has no specific aim that is stated outright. But I think we can, you know, put two and two together and understand that, like, this is a way to have a white supremacist nation.
Right. And it's, you know, I think that's
more than
important
it already
to point out. Yeah, exactly. Well, and that's what that was exactly where I was going to go with it. Is it's like, look, this stuff doesn't, everybody gets all caught up in, like, you know, the ideology of everything and the explanation of all this bullshit. And it's like, look, man, stop thinking about it in an academic sense for a moment and think about it in, like, a de facto sense. think about it in terms of just like, all right, like if I'm just going to measure the material reality that we're exposed to and we're dealing with, is this an accurate description of what's going on or not? And the answer is yeah. So, I mean, it's like, it's not hyperbolic to use language that people are using. Like, I understand why people would call ICE Gestapo, right? Like, to me, there's a very obvious logical connection to it. And I think the problem there sometimes, you know, sort of to your point earlier, is it's like, it becomes rhetorical, you know, it becomes sort of like, it allows an opportunity for it to be like hyperbolized and like sort of like characterized in media in a way that seems like everybody's just being unreasonable. So it's just like, a lot of times from my perspective, it's a lot easier to just call the balls and strikes as they come and just be more direct about like, this is what happened. This dude was shot in the back 10 times after he had his firearm taken from him, and he had been pepper sprayed in the face and beaten, pistol whipped, like that. Just talk about the material realities of things. You know what I mean? Like that's the way I'm sort of like trying to come at it now, because I feel like that's going to make a way better appeal to a lot of people that aren't already sort of like inside some sort of like lefty activist sphere. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah. And we have to uplift and call things as they are, because like, you know, as we've seen, like, you know, AI is playing a factor into this, right? Like the Trump administration, they're actively manipulating videos and footage. The picture of the gun that, you know, Alex had, allegedly that was a picture that was grabbed from Reddit that was posted 5 days ago. Like straight up. I mean, so like Nikema Levy Armstrong, who's a attorney here and an activist, you know, Black woman, she was arrested, and they, you know, there's this image going around side by side of her on the perp walk, and she's just kind of straight faced, and then there's an image next to it that the White House put out where she's in tears, sobbing, and her mouth is open.
right.
And so, like, you know, and two, when people were ringing the alarms about the dangers of AI, like, this is what we're talking about. Like, it is now being weaponized against reality. And so we need people to verbalize and to say things as they are. You need to say what you saw. Like, and I will say, like, part of this community defense too is like getting good practice at like understanding objective reality.
Right.
Knowing what to look for, knowing like what the signs of danger are. You know, I filled out a report that I sent to the ACLU and to the Attorney General's office about, you know, because during that raid, on that ambush on Wednesday, I had a flashbang thrown at me. And that's fucked up. Like, that could have like easily, like, I could have lost my eyesight, like, you know, or whatever. Right.
Glad we're talking right now, dude. Like, you know,
yeah, like I had a comrade yesterday who got some kind of munition, a ballistic of some sort, in her head. She had to get 2 staples in her head. You know, like, people are getting fucked up out here, if not killed. So, like, it unfortunately behooves us to start talking about things in harsher, realer terms. And like,
right.
You know, this is why there's a lot of ire when we have these sort of spineless takes and press tours from Democrats and Republicans. Like, you know,
yeah,
it's all connected.
Right, exactly. Yeah. So that's a nice way to sort of like tie it up and put a bow on it there. This last question, I don't want to keep you too long because I'm sure you're really busy with everything that's going on over there right now. But any specific like mutual aid groups, people, activist organizations, anything that you want to shout out, any recommendations that you might have for people who are, you know, like just stuff that's right off the top of your head, things that you've been sort of like ideas that have been coming up over and over and over again for you that like it's like you want to share with folks, things that any of that sort of like last looks type of thoughts that you might have going through your head, or about ways that people can help themselves, the broader coalition, or just like their neighbors and comrades.
Yeah. So I'll try to get you these links after, and maybe that's a better way to plug people in. But
yeah, definitely. Whatever it is, we'll throw it in the description at the bottom of the video. That way people can directly access it.
Yeah, I mean, so there's a lot of Smitten Kitten has been doing incredible work. You know, they've kind of like they're in the heart of Uptown. They've been featured on the New York Times, the Daily, and like they're getting a lot of press. But they've been literally putting cash in people's hands. Like they've been organizing a bunch of mutual aid supplies and groceries and deliveries. So they're an adult toy store in our town. Like all things Minneapolis, like it is,
Hell yeah.
it's like that out here. So they're great. There's also this really uh, I found it very useful. It's called standwithminnesota.com. And that is they have basically gathered, uh, organizations that are working on the ground day in and day out with immigrant support. There's links there for rent support. A lot of people, like, we still don't have an eviction moratorium right now, which is insane to me.
That's fucking crazy. You guys are like, I mean, look, it's as cold over there as it is over here. Like, we've got this as a very similar polar vortex going on in New Hampshire right now that you guys have in Minnesota. Like, I get it. Like, I'm out here trying to frame a house in the middle of winter and I'm missing days of work because it's just too fucking cold to do anything. Like, like to not have an eviction moratorium is so inhumane. It blows my mind. Like, that's fucked. Oh, sorry. I can't help but react to that. Like,
yeah, I mean the upside is that our city council unanimously voted in favor for it. However, our milquetoast governor has not signed off on that. So people can call our governor if you'd like, put some pressure on him. That would be a great thing to help.
yeah, Walls deserves a little bit of hell if you ask me. I think that's duly warranted.
Yeah,
just looking from the
Fry as
outside,
well.
Yeah, exactly.
A lot of people, they see him. I've had to have these conversations with my mother. Like, they they're very eloquent speakers, right? Like they're very folksy. They're
Right.
very like, they're what you want your model Democrat to look like, right? But like they're full of shit. They're not doing.
Yeah,
shit.
dude. Hey, I stand Omar Fateh so hard. You know what I mean? Like that dude should have been your mayor. That's my. I know. I'm seeing clips of the dude. He is out there with his mega sweet tooth, and he's just like rocking it so hard with the team. And I'm just like, I really appreciate him for doing that.
Yeah. No, I've met him a couple times. Like, realest dude out there. So yeah, Autonomous Yurt Union. They're incredible. They build yurts. If you don't know what a yurt is, it's like this sort of Scandinavian design circular shelter that is completely insulated, and they also buy firewood to keep these yurts heated with wood stoves. So they're helping our houseless neighbors in this polar vortex, but just year round. And they're also starting to expand to other cities. It's a really like grassroots organization, and a little bit goes a long way. They just buy like dump trucks full of firewood and keep people warm through the winter. So.
I mean, that's like, I just thinking about the unhoused population here in New Hampshire right now, and just what they're up against with this weather. That's such a good resource for any of the sort of like northern, more rural states that are dealing with unhoused populations and trying to figure out how to manage that. Like, that is awesome.
Yeah. Another plug, I mean, where Alex was killed yesterday, it's called Eat Street, and it's one of our sort of dining food corridor destinations in the cities, and a lot of those restaurants stepped the fuck up. We didn't get to talk about this, but I literally kind of became a nurse without any training, working inside of a restaurant yesterday, and we were flushing people.
Right. Yeah. No, I did want to ask about that. So I mean, let's take like a minute or two, just talk about that a little bit, because that sounds like, like we've talked about sort of like food and organizing and stuff like that, but the medical side of things is really important too. So yeah, let's talk about it a little bit.
Yeah. So I mean, as soon as I heard the news, I mean, it was around 9:30 in the morning yesterday. I It was becoming clear pretty quickly. Like we knew there was a shooting. We didn't know right away whether Alex had made it. Um, so there was a while where we were kind of in the lurch, uh, and then it quickly became clear that he was pronounced dead on the scene. Um, and so it's like it's very easy to give into freeze in that moment, and there was some freeze for me,
Yeah.
because you just like, what the fuck do you do with that? um
Right.
and so all I knew was to take my 2 feet and walk out the door. And so I grabbed, this time I was very prepared. I have a backpack that I carry a IFAC in, which is an independent first aid kit, or
Mhm.
individual first aid kit. And it's like to treat like ballistics, basically. Like it's very like military grade shit. Um,
Yeah.
and so I keep that in my backpack. I keep heat resistant gloves, for gas canisters and things of that nature. And put on my respirator, and I just started walking 20 minutes east of where I live, to the site. And immediately, I mean, the streets are barricaded with dumpsters. People are pulling mattresses out of the alleyways, pallets, trash cans, whatever they can for community defense and protection, because they know that ICE is on the scene. ICE is escalating. They're throwing canisters, pepper bullets, and rounds, and rubber bullets, and all the shit. So I show up there. There's already gas in the air. Like that's once you know that smell, and you can see
Right.
it too, right? Like there's smoke, billowing about, and so I get on site. I'm kind of trying to assess the situation. Again, I go back to this thought of like, am I here as a protester, or am I here to help? Um, and yesterday I chose to be there to help. And so like I have a squirt bottle, for any like cyclists that are watching. Like if you have like a water bottle with a squeeze top, um, that is perfect to bring with you to a protest. If you need to flush someone's eyes out, um,
Yep.
it's really handy to have on you. So I had all that equipment with me, and I go and meet up with a friend, and we're kind of going back and forth. Like the state police at this point had created a perimeter around the block, and they're in full riot gear, and they're just and people are fucking pissed. I'm pissed. Like we're all pissed, right? And so people are milling about. People are going face to face with officers. And the scene is just like you like, it's moths to a flame, and this is what they want. This is what ICE wants. They know that we care. They know that we give a shit, and so when they create these scenarios, they know we're gonna show up, right? So it's just like it's a straight up battle scene. There's probably 3 blocks along Nicollet that are just fully covered in gas smoke. And anyway, so my hands started to feel like a little bit like numb in one of my fingers. I hadn't been out there that long, but I just
Yeah.
like started to notice this. And so I was like, someone on a megaphone was announcing that there were 2 medics inside of this local restaurant on that block. And if anyone needed medical attention, to go inside. And so I figured, okay, like if there's medics on site, they probably have some hand warmers or something to kind of just get the blood circulating again. So I go in there, and the 2 medics, they're like, one is a nurse, the other one, she is a street medic. They've been doing this for a long time. They're probably somewhere in their 60s, and pretty instantaneously they ask if there are other medics in the building. And I kind of like tepidly raise my hand. Like I've had this stop the bleed training in 2020. Okay. Mind
Sure.
you,
Yeah.
like that's very specific. That's like street medic stuff, packing wounds, preparing for that kind of shit, right? Um, and I've been absorbing some information about how to flush people's eyes for tear gas and chemicals and things of that nature, but like I hadn't done it in practice yet. So this nurse, he's like, all right, there's someone who needs help right now. He's like, right the fuck now. We're going to this bathroom. If you want to learn how to do this, you come with me. And he's like very stern about this, but like he's an old head. He's just like he's activated. He's like, let's
No,
fucking
man,
go.
that's the fucking way. That's the fucking way. That's the way you learn. You got to learn in that
Yeah.
situation. You just got to like, dude, straight into the deep end. And then no
Yeah.
like water wingies on it. Just get out, get doing it.
Yeah, so like we're in there, we're standing in the bathroom inside of this restaurant, five adults, and this person who had been covered in tear gas, he's instructing her to take her sweatshirt off, take her jacket off, hat, because again, this stuff just sticks to your clothing and it's awful. And he started to show us, demonstrate like how you do an eye flush and how like what the next steps are. After you're in a spray of chemicals. So it was like on the job training right away, right? And I kind of have this like hesitation of like, is this my lane right now? Is this what I'm doing like right the fuck now? And I'm like, yeah, I guess so. So like my friend had like gone elsewhere in the neighborhood to go on another mission, and I was like, okay, I guess I'm like holding up here now. So like within 30 minutes, we kind of became a field hospital. Other medics started to show up. We had two physicians, who one of which had been an EMT for a decade before he became a doctor, and his wife, who's also a physician, and then his parents, who are former physicians, were there. And then nurses started to show up,
Wow.
and street medics, and suddenly people are rushing in bottles of water, plastic bottles of water for eye flushes. We've got two bathrooms that are becoming triage, and then we're starting to use the toilets because there's not enough space at the sink because people are just coming in droves. Like we just kept getting these waves and waves and waves of people being tear gassed. And so we're talking a very narrow hallway, like a very long but narrow hallway. And so at the very back of the hallway, now we've got two recycling bins that have now become ad hoc eye wash stations where like I was washing, the eyes of a local reporter, like, who had gotten gassed, like, just your everyday people, like just coming in who had never experienced this before. And sometime in the afternoon, like we started to get more supplies. Like we had saline syringes that you can, like kind of flush into people's eyes. We had bandages, sure. Mylar blankets coming through. We had people bringing, ambivents, basically respirators for, children, saline bags, like just, it started to look, it became basically a field hospital. We turned a prep kitchen into a field hospital. Like we used a baking rack to like organize gauze and medications like aspirin and Tylenol. And like, so like before you can even think about it, it's happening. And that's what I mean when it's like, you just fucking put one foot in front of the other. You don't know where you're going to end up sometimes. And like, before you know it, you're in a restaurant that's now a hospital. Like, and to be in that situation, and then we all kind of learned together Alex's identity, and that he was a ICU nurse at the VA, and one of the physician, his mother recognized him right away.
Oh wow, dude.
So like we're a very interconnected city. Alex's spirit like came over us that day, came over me, like in a very specific way, in a very like unintended way. I kind of don't believe in coincidences anymore.
Sure.
Yeah, it was some heavy shit.
Yeah, no, like, I mean that's just that's incredible. I mean, like just the thinking about just sort of like the synergy of that moment, and like, I mean, I'm glad you shared this story because like I think like hearing that as it progressed is like I really hope that anybody's watching this understands like just how real it gets and how quick it gets, like, or how
Yeah.
quick it is that it gets that real.
Yes.
And like it's important, like this is literally happening here in this country. This isn't like some weird foreign war that you're having reported on second, third hand. This is like these are our friends and family. You know what I mean? Like these are people that folks know. And I can't imagine how just incredibly galvanized that whole team of people must have been when they heard that, you know, that was a VA ICA nurse. You know what I mean? Like that's just it's wild to me. So that's such a unique perspective to have on the situation.
Yeah, I mean, like, it's just funny, like, over the course of talking with you today, like, and just me realizing, like, I've gone from Ice Watch to, uh, you know, participating in the community to being a nurse, like, to, like, we don't realize like how many skills we actually have until like we need to use them sometimes, and that it's sort of baked into us, and things just like this, like there's this alchemy that happens in crisis, and you activate, you turn that dial on, because like we in our DNA we want to help people. We don't want to live in crisis. We don't want to live in occupation. We don't want to live in a whitewashed nation. Like we want to live where people are treated with dignity and care and have joy and are able to be with their families and able to love and laugh and like fucking cry together and like light candles together and uh, go ice skating or whatever. It's just like
Right. Yeah. Just do shit. Just like enjoy your
just want to
existence for fuck's sake.
Yeah, like it doesn't have to be this way because one dude wants all the fucking money in the world and wants all the praise for
Right.
it. Like we are in a narcissist's fucking wet dream, and we don't have to participate in that.
Well, I thank you so much for sharing that story. I really I cannot tell you how much I appreciate your time today, Zach. Like just I know like you probably have work, you have more aid to get back to, you have more stuff you got to get into, and for you to just like take this like hour and 15 minutes that we just did to like get on here and talk to a whole bunch of like random New Hampshire people that are just like stuck in their houses and just kind of like freaking out looking at their social media on the doom scroll, like it means a lot to me because I think like, I mean, dude, like you were on this channel back when I started it. You know what I mean? Like we did
Yeah.
activism together during COVID. And like, it's just like when I sit here and I think about like going back to then, like I did not envision that like it would have ratcheted up so high at this point in time and for us to be sitting here having this conversation today. But it's like, in a lot of ways, I feel like it's just as important as it ever was, if not more. And like again, it's the whole goal is not like to be some sort of fuck ass internet influencer or whatever. Like it's about getting information to people. And so like I really hope that anybody that's checking this out now is able to just sort of like take stock of like everything that you said. We'll throw links in the description. We'll make sure everybody's got the resources, because again, this isn't about like making media or being like, whatever. It's about making sure that everybody's fucking safe and doing the most that they possibly can for everybody that they care about, and even people that they don't care about. You know what I mean? Like it's about the wellness of all of us. That's where we're at. So
100%.
dude, thank you so much.
No, thank you. I mean, really, yeah, it means a lot. And I want New Hampshire, I want everyone to stay safe and know that you have the tools to resist this. Like you have it in you. It is in your DNA to resist this. And we have to. It's a mandate.
Awesome. Well, thank you again so much, Zach. And we'll probably catch up with you again at some point. I'm sure this saga is not over.
No, thank you.
All right, folks, that does it for today. It's a long one, but it's like we got to do it. So, care about the channel, if you're interested, you want to learn more, you want to check out other stuff, make sure to hit the subscribe button. If you want to support it, you can go on Patreon, but please, like, all of that comes second to just like clicking on the links below and just getting involved and making sure you're there for your neighbors and your family and yourself. So with that, take it easy, everybody, and we will catch up with you again later.